Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man Podcast. My name is Rory Paquette, and I am, as always, your incredibly grateful host. Thank you so much for joining us today for this solo episode. I wanted to come on here today and talk about our episode 300 that came out, some reflections on it, and on the journey that's gotten us here. Very first thing that I want to do is I want to thank everybody for the reception. It's been all over social media that we hit our 300th episode here a little while ago, and you folks have just been more than gracious. I appreciate the well wishes and all the comments and all the what is it, gifs that have been sent over. Um, so. And I did want to put out a little bit of a disclaimer. So, it was episode 300. Um, and I got a whole bunch of, this is Sparta and King Leonidas just screaming, and stuff like that. I got to tell you, my buddy Dom, uh, who, who runs his own podcast, Dom Brightman, he was amazing, to have on, my shows previously, but he sent over, King Leonidas from the movie just screaming, just, really. And I saw that and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Check this out. It's King Leonidas. He's like, celebrating, 300. And I didn't get the connection to the movie. My wife had made a comment the day earlier, and we were talking about episode 300. She was like, you should do like a "This is Sparta," type of thing. And I was like, okay. I kind of laughed at it like, oh, that's funny, but I didn't really get it. And she looked at me like, why wasn't that funny to him? And so the next day, I'm showing her this King Leonidas thing, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of funny. And she goes, yeah, 300. Do you really not get it? I'm like, what are you talking about? So my wife had to explain it to me. Guys, I don't know. Sometimes, I guess, I don't know if it's just you get to be this age or you're so preoccupied, or maybe it's four podcasts and putting out, 30 episodes a week or whatever the heck my numbers are at this point that just gets you where you're not thinking. And so all of you guys who sent over references to the movie 300, King Leonidas stuff and Spartans and everything else, and I didn't respond quickly or appropriately, guys, I didn't get it. All right, I don't know what to tell you. Rocks in my head. I get it now, makes total sense. Love it. But I figured I should, do a little mea culpa, throw myself on my sword a little bit over that one, so you guys understood. I was not ignoring you. Man, I just did not get the connection, but I do now. So there you go. Even Power Man has, his moments. So thank you everybody for that. If you haven't caught the episode yet, please go back and watch it. If you have kids and you have ever wondered if, what you're doing as a father is making a difference, if it's making a dent, if it's having any kind of desired effect, watch this episode because, I'm blessed to have the children that I have. I'm blessed to have the wife that I have, who has done such a fantastic job with them. And I've been blessed by God to most of the time have a pretty good idea of what to say and how to say it in raising all of them. And certainly not all the time, but more often than not, I've been blessed to kind of figure it out as I went. And I've also had great kids who were willing to listen to those things and take those things on. So, all the way around, it's something that I want to share because not because I'm, better at it or not because I'm, some pro, but because I've lived it. And I know what it feels like to feel like you're just howling into the wind, into the darkness, and that you're talking and talking and talking and trying to teach and trying to lead, and you feel like nobody's listening. You feel like, you're sitting here and you're talking to your kid about what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes you feel like it's just bouncing off of them like kryptonite. And you can't figure out, is what I'm doing even making a difference? Is it getting in? I had a chance to interview my boys, Caden and Mike, and to ask them some questions, to open things up and say, hey, did this make a difference? How did this work? What'd you think here? And they came to that interview with open hearts, ready to share. And I got to tell you, I fought back tears two or three times in that episode. It was really tough to hear some of the things, um, and incredibly gratifying to hear others. It really was. But I know my boys, and I know that they weren't going to necessarily air dirty laundry, during an episode of my podcast. But by the same token, the things that they said about how they were positively impacted by a whole bunch of different things, that came from the heart. And I think when you watch the episode, you can tell from these guys. There's no deceit in them. They're both brothers in Christ, and they just showed up, told the truth, gave their dad a pat on the back, and went on about their incredibly successful lives. So very proud of all of my children. I did have a whole bunch of people say, "Well, how come your daughter wasn't on there?" That's just out of respect for her. She's a very private person, and she doesn't like to broadcast herself out there. Just because her dad is a podcaster and a ham and has no problem talking to the masses doesn't mean that she's comfortable doing that. And I totally respect that. So, my boys, on the other hand, have no problem, being much more public. So they were willing to do it and come on and have that conversation. But it wasn't because I didn't want my daughter on there, believe me. I, as a bucket list, would love to have my daughter on, just she and I. I'd love to do a one-on-one interview with my daughter and have her come on the podcast and, talk about growing up, things that went wrong, things that went right, stuff like that. I really would love that. And I hope that she hears that at some point. But hey, I'm not sure that's ever going to happen. We'll just, we'll wait and see. But more reflections on the episode and on the past. I have had an incredible run of 300 episodes with some of the most incredible men that you could ever ask to meet along the way. And I've learned so much. When you look back at the people we've had on, I mean, we've had on pastors, we've had on fitness guys, we've had on masculinity, advocates. We've had on Bible experts. We've had Iron Man. We've had regular people who had stories to tell. We've had on people who entrepreneurs, lots of them who run their own business and have things to say. And it's been an amazing ride so far. And we're nowhere near done. It's not even close. But the reason I wanted to do this episode today was to just sort of recap, to say thank you, of course, and point a couple things out along the way. The first of which is that if you are out there and you are listening to this and you feel like you have a story, you feel like, hey, I've overcome some things in my life, but you also feel like, who wants to hear my story? Who the heck am I? Brother, I'm inviting you on the podcast right now. I am looking for some ordinary Joes. I'm looking for some guys who, are husbands and fathers. I'm looking for some guys who are, just out there living life, just getting through, who have overcome some adversity. That's it. Because, brother, that's all you have to do in this world to be a hero. That's it. You just have to persevere. The guy who goes to work every day and comes home and wakes up the next day and does it again. The guy who takes care of his family. The guy who pays the bills and takes care of his kids and finds a way to still be present. The guy who, puts his wife on a pedestal and says, hey, I'm going to do everything I can for her. The guy who honors God in what he does. Listen, if you're that guy out there, I don't care if you've written a book. I don't care if you have a course. I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if you're, some Instagram influencer. If you're just a man with a story, I want to hear it. Reach out and let's get you on here. Let's get you some of the recognition that I think you richly deserve, and let's tell some stories. Let's tell some stories from the gravel pits. Let's tell some stories from the from the assembly line. Let's tell some stories from the working man's perspective, because we all know that it's guys like us that go out there every day and just put our heads down, do what we have to do, and bring home the bacon. Uh, that sometimes live those thankless lives because we don't ask our families to say thank you because it's our job, because it's our mission. It's because it's our responsibility. And so if you're one of those guys and you're out there and you're just thinking, hey, I have overcome a lot in my life. Maybe it's medical, maybe it's spiritual, maybe it's circumstantial, but whatever it is, if you've overcome that, I want to hear from you. I DM me. I'm easy to find. It's in the show notes, man. Send me an email. powermanpodcast@gmail.com. Simple stuff. But reach out. Let me know who you are. And let's have a quick talk. And maybe we can get you on the show. I would love to talk to you. So um, I really want to build that direction of the show for sure. I also want to go over the episode a little bit more and point a few things out to you guys. Um, Several of the questions that I asked my sons, I think you could ask your sons as well. I think there's something that about the way that we asked the questions, about the way we got the answers that resonates with a lot of other people. I've had a lot of men tell me, man, I wish I could have this talk. I wish I could sit down with my son and have this conversation. And, my message to you on that point is you do not need to have a podcast to sit down and have that talk with your children. You really don't. Sit them down, connect with them, ask them some of those same questions. Ask them how this has impacted their life. How that has changed things. A real simple answer. If your kids are in sports, start off with the question I started with. Hey, you both you guys have been in sports for your whole lives. What has that done for you? What has that taught you? What do you think you've gotten out of being in sports? And that may sound trite, but you know what? It's a great way to get them talking about something that's easy to talk about. Because honestly, I mean, is there anything else easier for a kid to talk about than a sport he's playing? And you can do the same thing with an activity that they're in. It doesn't have to be a sport. It could be dance. It could be chess club. It could be orchestra. It could be band. Whatever they're into. It could be them playing video games, and being in a league or, having a competition. It could be anything where you think that, they have some thoughts, where you feel like it's positively influenced their lives and what they're doing. It can be any club, any organization, but ask them and say, hey, you know what? I'm curious. What do you think you've gotten out of this? How do you think this has helped you? It's a great way to break the ice and start communicating if you're not. It's a great way to dive deeper into your communication and to open up a path between you and your kid of talking a little deeper about a subject. And believe me when I tell you, kids are going to respond to that. Your kids are going to say, wow, dad really wants to know more about this. And it's going to be amazing how they start to open up. Now, it may not be the very first time you ask the question. They may not sit down and give you a big long soliloquy on, how this works and how that works and how much it meant to them. It may take a minute, but start. If you don't normally talk that way with your kids, start talking that way with your kids. Go for it. Give them the chance. and take a chance. When I say this to a lot of dads, the answer that I get from them is, well, that's just not how I talk to my kids. Brother, why not? And okay, that's not how I talk to my kids. Well, whose decision is that? Who decides how you talk to your kids? Isn't the answer to that you? Aren't you the one who decides how you talk to your kids? I think that you are. And if you're the one who decides how you're going to talk to your kids, then you're the one who can decide to do it a little differently. Gentlemen, our kids want us to be strong. They want us to be solid. They want us to be dependable. You know, they want us to be protectors and providers and leaders. But they also want us to be interested in them. They want us to care about what's happening in their lives. I think so often we get so wrapped up in making sure that we can provide and pay for the sport or the extracurricular activity or the club or um, whatever it is, and we forget to actually be interested in it for them and with them and alongside them. And I want to encourage you to do that. And if you don't think that's possible, watch episode 300 again. I don't get those responses from my boys if I've never been interested in their lives. You can tell it's not the first time they've been asked questions like that. You can tell that I've worked very hard at establishing that level of communication with them. Otherwise, the last thing in the world they would do is jump on a podcast for thousands and thousands and thousands of people to see and hear if they weren't ready to have that conversation. So, gentlemen, if you want to increase your communication, if you want to increase your closeness, if you want to feel like you're more connected to those kids, you have to do this. At some point, we have to break out of our own comfort zones as fathers if we want our children to break out of their comfort zones with the responses and with the interaction that we hope for. So I want to encourage that. I really do. And I want you guys to take back that power of your own and say, listen, I decide what relationship I'm going to have with my children. I am the one who has to lead the way on this. And if you do, it may not be easy, it may not be simple, it may not be fast, but it will be incredibly gratifying and it will pay off. It may take a minute, but it absolutely will pay off. Stay the course. Stay the course. On that same note, and I want to encourage this as well, when we go through hard times, as parents, one of the things we hope is that our kids are not impacted, right? Because we just want to, we go through the hard times, we try and shield them from it, right? Well, folks, they know what's happening. They know what's going on, and they're impacted by it, whether we know it or not, whether we want to admit it or not. Our normal reaction as fathers is to not talk about it. Because if I talk about it, then I'm acknowledging that it happened. I asked my boys point blank during that episode, when we were going through one of the toughest times of our lives, what'd you learn? How did it impact you? What happened? That wasn't the first time we've had a conversation like that. They knew we were going through some tough times. And I talked to them during and after those tough times. We've gotten to the point in our relationship where because I treat them that way and because I have worked so hard to have that open communication with them, that they've been curious about why those hard times happened. How did this come about and how did that, go down? Not because they're looking to blame, because they want to understand it because they don't want it to happen to them. They want to learn from it. And I could take that and, be embarrassed. And I could say, well, I don't want to talk about this. It was a low point. You don't need to know. Or I can take it and go, you know what? I made some mistakes. We suffered for them. Here's what happened. And then I've also taught them this is how we got out of it. This is what it took. This is what I had to sacrifice and what I had to go do. You see, you don't get to go in and give the lesson on how to fix it if you don't also give a little explanation about how you broke it. And because I've had those conversations, I have found a whole new level of relationship with my boys about these things. And as I sit here as a father and I, constantly worry, and it's very difficult to helicopter parent when they're, you're an empty nester. But when you're constantly worried about them and you're always hoping that everything works out and they don't have to go through any hard times, you get a little bit of solace. You get a little bit of peace, knowing that you've taught them a couple of things to avoid. You've taught them some things to embrace, and they've been able to learn how to avoid certain pitfalls in their life because of my willingness to go deep on that situation. So that's the second thing that I want you to take out of that episode. Okay, when things go bad, don't sweep them under the rug. Don't intentionally not talk about them. Have that line of communication. Now, obviously, you don't want to come apart and have a nervous breakdown in front of them or anything like that. But after the fact, it's really okay to have an intelligent, peaceful conversation designed to teach and designed to have them learn so that they can avoid it. And I hope that you will take that into account based on this episode. And again, if you're not sure if that's worthwhile or if that actually works, listen to episode 300, watch it, listen to how these guys reacted to questions like that and the things they had to say. It was big for me. I heard some things during that episode when I was recording it that I had never heard before. And I realized a lot of things that I had never realized before. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to pass those lessons on to you guys as well. One of the reasons I started this podcast was because I was, incurring scars at a record rate. And I really wanted to put my stories out there to help men who were not where I am. They were younger. They hadn't hit these points yet. Maybe they hadn't made these mistakes yet. So that if they heard my stories, they could avoid those mistakes. Well, folks, you have to do the same thing for your kids. So I hope that you'll take those two things out of this. I truly do, out of that episode. The final piece that I hope you take out of that episode and out of what we are doing here is that absolutely nothing happens without you. And let me explain that. As men, we want to put up walls. We want to check out. We want to numb out. Very often we want to just come home, have our pizza, drink our beer, go into a mind coma and just turn on Netflix and relax, right? We just want to relax. We're all about relaxing. Let me just breathe. Let me just have some time. Gentlemen, if you're doing that now, if you're relaxing, if you're having me time, let me ask you, how's that working for you? Do you have the life you want because you've been able to relax enough? Do you have the life that you want and the relationship that you want with your wife and with your children because you've been able to have that me time to just numb out? Is it really helping you? And if the answer to any of that is no, if you're not where you want to be in those areas, then this is the perfect place to step it up. This is the perfect place to get up off the couch and get involved. Turn off the television and go talk to your wife about anything. Current events, your kids, hopes, dreams, the neighbors, the dog. Who cares? Just talk, connect. Do the same thing with your kids. You're sitting there in the living room, everybody's watching TV. They're quiet, you're quiet, they're on their phones. You might be on your phone too. Sound familiar? Put it down. Hit mute and start with, how was your day? Hey, pal, what'd you do today? What'd you study? What was this class like? What'd the teacher say? How's your girlfriend? How's the car running? What was practice like today? What'd you guys cover? Learn anything in orchestra? How's that instrument holding up? Anything. But look at your lives and take steps to connect. Guys, all it takes is one step. All it takes is one time looking at what you're doing and saying, could I connect better? Could I, talk more? Every single word that comes out of your mouth is currency. Every time you connect, it's a deposit in their emotional bank account. Fill them up. Make your wife and your kids rich with your communication, with your love for them. And stop worrying about having relaxation and numb out time. Nobody ever succeeded in life by numbing out. Nobody. Find me the guy. Plenty of men have succeeded in life by connecting with their spouse and with their children. And guys, I'm going to tell you something right now. When you do that, it's amazing how the rest of your life improves. Watch the episode. It does pay off. It does work. Gentlemen, I've made the mistakes. I've sat on the couch too long. I've numbed out way too many times. So I know what I'm talking about. And no matter what it is, you got to put it down. Whether it's a bottle, whether it's the joint, whether it's the cheeseburger, whether it's the guilt, whether it's the memories, whatever it is that's holding you down, you have to put down what you're carrying. And you have to re-engage. And gentlemen, that's how you get to your episode 300. That's how you connect with your sons and your daughters and your wives. I hope you guys will take that into account. And the next time you're sitting there watching TV, not talking, I hope you will remember this. Put the phone down, hit mute, open your mouth, and share your wisdom, share your time, share your love with the people around you. You will be better for it, and so will they. And I hope you do that because you matter, because you have value, and at some point, you have to believe it. Go find your episode 300, gentlemen. I love you guys. Till next time.